There's something that I hear from women across the board, which is if I had more time to meal prep, to meal plan, to exercise, if I just had more time, then losing weight would be easier. Do you feel that way too? They also say if I wasn't a busy Christian working businesswoman, then I'd have more time to focus on my health and weight loss. Do you feel that way too? If you're saying yes to this, then please stay with me today as I get the privilege to interview Lissa Figgins. Lissa Figgins is a Christian time stewardship coach, the host of Redeem Her Time podcast, and she is on a mission to shift the way busy midlife Christian entrepreneurs approach time so they can finally stop chasing a clock and their to-do list. After 25 years of leading, teaching, and coaching Christian women, Lissa discovered why women feel like there's never enough time, even after organizing their tasks and time blocking their day. Because she says the problem is not a disordered calendar, but it's a disordered heart. I am excited for you to hear what Lissa shares so that you can find the time, because she says you have the time for your health and this weight loss journey. And also, please be sure to grab her free gift she's offering to us, which is Fill Your Cup First Guide. It's permission and direction to fill your body, mind, and spirit before and after you pour out. Because I know that as a Christian woman, you are pouring out all the time. So be sure to grab that link. It's in the show notes that she has given us this free gift. Or you can go grab this free gift from Lissa if you go to redeemhertime.com/fill, Fill. And if you have been listening to this podcast and it is filling you, then I ask if you could please leave me a written review anywhere where you're consuming this podcast. That written review will greatly bless me. The more written reviews this podcast has, the more it will get known out there to other women who may be searching for this podcast specifically. So be sure to leave a written review. It will greatly bless me, greatly bless this podcast, and potentially greatly bless another Christian woman that's looking for this. Hey, woman of God, are you sick of fad diets that only get you temporary results? Are you looking for a simple, foundational, faith-based weight loss framework that will fit into your busy day so it becomes a lifestyle? Are you ready to break free from binge eating, overeating, sugar addiction, self-sabotage, and the battle with your scale? It is time to let the chain breaker Jesus move mightily into your weight loss journey. I'm Andrea Lynn. I am so excited that you're here with me on Christian Women's Weight Loss. I remember what it felt like to be 75 pounds overweight, exhausted, overwhelmed, riddled with poor self-esteem, low self-image, and unworthiness, until I was radically saved by Jesus and He made everything new. With 20 years of experience and numerous certifications in fitness and nutrition, I'm here to teach you everything I know about food and fitness while making faith your primary drive as a busy Christian woman wanting to lose weight and keep it off. If you're ready to let the Holy Spirit transform you from the inside out while getting your body, which is God's vessel, healthy so you can rise up and live out the calling that God has on your life, you're in the right place. May the Lord give you ears to hear, eyes to see, a heart that's pleasing to Him, along with a body that will be transformed for His glory. Let's dive in. All right, I'm really excited to be with Lissa today because I feel like what she has to offer is something that every woman who is trying to lose weight needs to hear, understand, and implement. So I want to start, Lissa, with you just sharing, how did you get into this? How did you get into, and I know you don't call it time management, you call it something else, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yes.
So
Okay. Well,
share
I
with
would
us.
love, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. This is such a gift. And I love your heart to bring people to what it is that God is doing in their lives. And that gets fleshed out in how we're taking care of the temples that we have, how we're taking care of our bodies. So, just so you know a little bit about me, I've been a follower of Jesus for a really long time and just continuing to grow in that relationship. I'm married to my husband for almost 30 years. I'm a mom to three kids out of the nest, and now a mother-in-law. So learning what that looks like. Also, like helping aging parents and, siblings and, nieces and nephews and things like that. And I really feel called to come alongside women. And sometimes it's in a direct leadership role, sometimes it's in a friendship role, sometimes it's in a mentor role. And really have these conversations around our time. And it is funny that you mentioned it's not time management because for a long time, I would say I'm a time management coach.
Yeah.
And one day I was doing an interview just like this, and we were having this conversation about managing time. And I'd love to get into this maybe in a little bit, but and talking about how like when we try to manage things, that's us trying to control it.
Yes.
That's us trying to like, it's like playing whack-a-mole all day long. We're trying to keep, everything just in its place and things like that. And we're trying to just like manage to get through the day and manage to get by. And, it's just this like, it feels like this burden and this responsibility. And what came out of my mouth, and it was Holy Spirit infused, was it's really about stewardship. It's really about receiving this time instead of trying to chase after and control it, seeing it as a gift from God that we have been given to steward and to use to build, to invest in his kingdom and the things that are going to last. And so I love how health and time so beautifully tied together
Yes.
because we are called to steward our body, right? Just in the same way
Exactly.
we're called to steward our time and our resources and the talents that God has given us.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, long story short, I now say I'm a Christian time stewardship coach. And my mission is really to encourage and equip busy Christian women that are juggling all the things between life and possibly a business or ministry or leadership role, and to help them believe this truth that I think that everything I say comes down to these three words. So if your audience doesn't hear anything else, here's what I want you to hear. You have time.
Amen. Mhm.
Like that is the truth of it. But the reality is we don't often believe it. And I didn't always believe it either. And that's actually part of my story too, and how that affected me.
Yes, share that because it's amazing. Lissa and I were talking before we started recording, and what she shared with me is amazing how this whole time thing was started to affect your health. And this is
Yeah,
important for us to understand. So can you
yeah,
share
yeah.
that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've always been a doer. I mean, like ever since I was a kid, I could not be doing. I could not be like checking those boxes. I could not be, giving my 110%. I could not be saying yes to the next thing. And so, I was that busy girl. And I carried that into, marriage. I carried that into being a mom. I carried it into the different roles and responsibilities I had in that season, kind of my 20s, 30s, that type of thing. I was multitasking to the max, right? I had so many things that needed my time and attention. And so I had all my time blocks stacked up and I had checklists of checklists. And I would even write something on my checklist after I did it just for the satisfaction of checking it off, right?
I know what that's like, yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. But it was almost like I didn't know how to not be doing.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't doing, my mind was still doing, right? Like I couldn't turn my mind off, even, and I'm so embarrassed to say this now, but like family night, right? Mom's here with her laptop. This is
Yeah.
great. Let's watch a movie, guys, as I'm plunking away to send another email or write, another podcast episode or something like that. And
Yep.
I just always believed there was too much to do and there was too little time. And I just couldn't stop. I just had to keep going. And honestly, I didn't recognize it then, but I found my value in my doing, which I think so many of us, especially as women, can relate to, right?
Yes.
But
Especially
what
I would say
happened was it was
this,
starting to affect every area of my life.
yeah.
Yes, I was having my quiet time, but it was very rote. It was very like, okay, check that box, put on on the shelf, move on to the next thing. My family was obviously getting my leftovers, hence, family movie night. Who had time for friends or fun?
Yeah.
And it was just like this list of like should do tasks just kept piling up. And I wasn't sleeping great, and I wasn't taking care of my body the way that I need to. But here's where it really like I could push through all that stuff because I'm like a doer.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like the I will just make it happen, and it doesn't matter how I feel. But God finally got my attention when Like I literally had this ball in my throat for over a year that would not go away. And I had had what we thought was thyroid cancer a couple of years prior. So I'd had surgery to remove one side of my thyroid. And so all of a sudden, after this had been over a year, I started wondering, I wonder if there's something growing in there. Like maybe I really do need to go get this checked out. I can't just ignore this. So I finally promised my friends I would go see a specialist. I did. He tried the medications thinking it's acid reflux and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't think so. He tried things with my diet, but like I'm a really healthy eater. He did the scopes, essentially he sat me down in his office. I remember this day. I'm like sitting on the little chair and he's sitting across from me and he just looks at me and he's like, Lissa, there is nothing physically wrong with you. There is no physical reason that you should feel like you always have this ball in your throat. Yeah. He said, what you have is called hystericus globus. And then he just had this little smirk on his face and sat there quietly. And I'm like,
you're like, what?
What is hystericus globus? And he's like, well, globus means ball. So you have the sensation of a ball in your throat. Hystericus means, and he points to his head and he's like, crazy. He's like, that's where they get the word hysterectomy from, because back in the day, they thought that women were just going crazy in midlife. And so he's like, literally, this is all in your head. You have anxiety about whatever it is, and this is causing your body to feel like you have this throat or this ball in your throat. Yeah. And I didn't want to recognize the fact that, yeah, maybe that was true, right? It had to be a physical reason. There had to be a to-do that I could do instead. And as I spent time with the Lord afterwards, I realized, yeah, I am so busy and I'm so anxious over my time and feeling like I call it my not enoughness. That was my diagnosis. My diagnosis was not enoughness. My time was not enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing enough. And then essentially I wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. And so I was chasing that not enoughness. And when I was doing that, my body was keeping the score. I mean, it is so amazing how our body is reflecting what's going on in our heart and our mind. And so that's when God finally got my attention and was like, okay, do you really want to keep living like this? Mm-hmm. Let's start working on the heart part of this, not just, what you think all the outside answers might be.
I love that. And I also love that, you were already a follower of the Lord, a Christian woman, and so interesting that you were still doing just to, like you said, check the boxes. So it's interesting that, the Lord had to get your attention, but also that you didn't get that revelation before. You were just still doing, which to me, I understand. I'm sure that every woman listening to this can relate to. And what I have found is that when I get in that check the box, I forget about spending time with God too. Because I'm like, I gotta check the boxes. Okay, I'll do that later, Lord. And then I feel bad. So I think other women can relate to that too, because
there's a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda guilt, I call it, right? Yeah. And the enemy would love that, right? He would love to keep us feeling bad about ourselves or to keep us busy that we're so distracted. Yeah. I love the screw tape letters where, there's essentially a senior demon who's like tutoring a younger demon about how to really get into the life of this guy that he's been assigned to. Yep. And one of the tips he gives him is keep him busy, keep him distracted, right? Because then we're of little use to the kingdom, right? We're so whatever everywhere else, we're not really focusing on the things that matter and the things that are eternal, that are going to matter beyond, us. And so just remembering this is, a lie from the enemy that we don't have time or that we're not doing enough. Or that we're not enough, because that's how he can keep us, stuck and keep us in this place of not feeling well. Because if I don't feel well, I'm not going to have the energy. I'm not going to be putting myself, out there. I'm not going to be intentionally doing things to build God's kingdom, right? Exactly. I'm just going to be, trying to feeling bad for myself, probably.
Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that and bringing that up, because I feel like this ties into every woman listening to this. This is a Christian women's weight loss podcast, right? And there's a lot of women that are like, I need to lose this weight. I need to get my health in order. But this is what I hear. I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to spend in the Word. I just don't have the time because I'm a busy Christian businesswoman, and this is secondary because I need to keep going. So I think that what you're saying is so important, and we need to really realize that's, like you said, a lie from the enemy distracting you, because if he can get your health down, he's got you. I mean, last
Exactly.
night, right? I was laying in bed last night and I said, your health is so vital. Without health, we can't really do much. Really. Like if you're sick,
Yeah.
you just got to lay there.
Right,
So,
right, exactly. And you said something recently that really stood out to me. And I hope your audience has heard this before, but I want to say it again so they hear it. As spiritual beings, the root issue for anything in our life is always a spiritual one.
amen.
I
Yes.
think, like, again, with my time, I thought my answer was I just needed to rearrange all these things outside of me. And that's what all the time management gurus told me,
Yeah.
that I need to just get more organized, right? I need to organize my calendar, my to-do list, all put all the different pieces in place and then just keep everything organized. And that was going to fix the problem. And the problem was I was doing all that and it wasn't, it was really rooted in the heart. And so I love that, like, you dive into, yes, there are these external things that we need to be doing, but
Mhm.
what's going on, in here? And here's the thing, I want to call this out, right? Because
Do it.
this is me pointing my finger to myself too. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to call out this, I don't have time,
Yeah.
as I don't think that's true, because our calendar always shows what we value and we do have time. Like, when it really comes down to it, number one, we all have time. God has laid 24 hours in front of each one of us today, and he will again tomorrow and the
Yeah.
next day and the next day. And nobody gets more than 24.
Yeah.
And I always like to equate it to the children of Israel when they were in the wilderness and God gave them their daily manna. Like, they had this temptation to, like, look back at what they thought they had in Egypt and how that was better. And they had this temptation to look around at the other nations and what it looked like they had that looked better. But essentially, when they looked up and they received what God gave them, they found that what he was giving them was enough, right? So let's just call it for what it is that you do have time.
Yes.
And I am going to challenge your audience and you and myself, grab your phone, open up your settings and go to screen time. I know this is like that scary thing nobody wants to do, right?
Yes.
And look at the number. They say the average person spends over 6 hours on their device in a day. So when we say we don't have time, you look at that number and say, okay, I had 6 hours to be on this. Now, maybe some of it was productive for your business. Maybe some of it was productive in connecting with, family or friends and things like that. But let's be honest, even if there was an hour of that time that was scrolling or binging or just kind of randomness, like, how could that time be invested,
Yeah.
in something else? And so really it's going to come down to a couple of things. Number one, what am I valuing? Right? Because we can always find time for what we value, right? Like, you could be the busiest person in the world. And I could say, hey, if you give me an hour a day, I'll give you $1 million.
Hmm.
Guaranteed you would find an hour a day, right? Like,
Yes.
and what you are offering women is a gift of health and life and longevity to be able to enjoy life, which is priceless.
Yeah.
And yet we say we don't have time. So there's a value, issue there.
Yeah.
And so I think really it comes down to understanding, like you said earlier, without our health, and it's not just about a number and a scale. And I'm sure
Right.
you talk about this on your podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's about, yeah, feeling well and being able to pour out in the ways that God has called you to. But
Yes.
if we're not taking the time to fill up and take care of this temple, body, mind, and spirit,
Yeah.
we don't have much to give.
Exactly.
And like you said, we may just be on the couch or in bed or just really low on energy or not feeling good about ourselves or not able to move or get down on the floor with our kids or our grandkids or, like, not have the energy after working to, like, go and, be part of what's going on in the community or at church or things like that. And so, yeah, I think we have to make that decision that this matters. And then when we decide something matters, it's amazing, how we can find the time if we
Okay.
really want to.
That's good. So you're saying, number one, this has to be a priority, and then
Mm.
the time then is available.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to talk with women about, and this is going to be something that's just going to give your viewers, your listeners, a nugget to really kind of start shifting how you think about time. I think so often we are running around looking down at our clocks, looking down at our calendars or planners, right? Like, what time is it? And then immediately when we say that, like, it's like this angst comes up because we already feel behind. We already feel like there's not enough. Okay. Oh, what time is it? Oh, I don't have time for a workout. Oh, what time is it? Oh, I'm gonna have to go through the drive-through. Oh, what time is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I meant to get to bed at, 10, but I guess, it's not gonna happen today. And like we're always just kind of running and chasing after, what time it is. And it leads to, a lot of, that running around. And then oftentimes, yeah, just not being paying attention to how it's affecting us.
Yeah.
And so what I started doing and teaching my clients is to shift it from asking what time is it to what is it time for?
Love
Even
that.
just in the question, feel the difference. When I ask you, Andrea, what is it time for? Like, what does that bring up in you? What kind of feeling or thoughts does that bring up for you?
Ooh, I'm like, ooh, what is it time for? It brings up, like goodness. I'm
Like
excited.
anticipation. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
wow, there's something exciting or there's something meaningful, or it keeps you in the present, right?
Yes.
Like, and so I think that question can be really key because if we've done step one of deciding this matters and then setting aside, okay, here's the time I'm going to give this. Now, when that time comes, my question is, this is what it's time for. It doesn't really always matter what the clock says, and like, okay, this is what it's time for, which means I'm not going to pick up my phone if it was time that I already said I was going to exercise.
Right.
It means I'm not going to go, binge Netflix when this is time that I said that I was going to do some meal prep or
Yes.
work on my grocery order or, whatever those things are. Like it's knowing what time it is. And that helps us to like then intentionally give our time to these things that we say matter. And that shift like just has resonated with a lot of women that I work with because like you said, it puts the value and priority on what's in front of us and what's meaningful.
Yeah, and like you said, it feels way more exciting versus, oh, now I gotta exercise. Oh, now I gotta, meal prep. Oh, all this so much, such quick, easy, completely different feeling just by the way you're asking it.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And I think we think, right, the answer is I have to have all these things more organized. And while those things will be helpful, if you haven't decided that your health and wellness is a priority, and if you're not then being present to that time and saying, this is what it's time for. And so it's putting those healthy boundaries around it, right? Like sometimes I think we think boundaries are selfish in any area, right? Like, if don't put a fence up between you and your neighbor, that's selfish. Well, think about like, this is a season, a lot of people have gardens. And I was just driving to over to my friend's house and I noticed that she had not only a fence around her garden, but she also had an electric fence around it because guess what lives in the area that we live in? A lot of deer, right? And so what she was saying by that fence was, what is inside of here has value. And I want to give it the space and, everything that it needs to grow. And so putting boundaries on those things we value, and around our time around them is essentially protecting what's inside and protecting the value of it. And it's also keeping all the critters out,
Right.
and we walk around with this extra appendage, this AKA device that's like never more than an arm's length away from us. And this thing is running over those boundaries all day long. And then we wonder why we don't have time.
Yes.
Right. And so when something really matters, we will protect that time because we know the value there.
Yeah, I love that. So simple, but yet so profound.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
And then you can pick up the time management tools, I say in quotes, right? Where, because when you have that right heart posture,
Yeah.
that my time is a gift,
Hmm.
right? And I'm called to not just manage it on my own and try and keep everything in control and make it through another day, and check another box like I was doing. Like my role is to steward it.
Yeah.
And to be like the servants in Matthew 25, right? Like we know that two of them took what they'd been given by the master, invested it, and it produced, more abundance for his kingdom. And, his response was, well done, good and faithful servant. And, more was entrusted to them because they took what he had been entrusted to them and they used it in faith.
Yeah.
But that one guy who was afraid of things getting away, he wanted to keep it all under control because, and I mean, you think about it, like he didn't want anybody to steal it from him. He didn't want to lose it. He didn't want to like make a wrong choice, like, so yeah, I can kind of get why, that's what we do with our time too. Like, right. We just want to kind of like keep everything in this box. Right.
Yeah.
But he acted out of fear.
Yes.
And he felt like all that responsibility, was on him. And he was afraid of what the master was going to say, if anything was different than what he had actually given him. And
Right.
so, yeah, it's just like, am I just trying to manage? And I even think about this like in healthcare. So often I've heard them say, let's manage your symptoms.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
really? Who
Yeah.
wants that? I don't want to manage my symptoms, which means I'm just kind of trying to, again, play whack-a-mole and keep them,
Yep.
like at bay. Like, how can we get rid of them so that growth can happen and make this, a beautiful thing that's able to produce fruit instead of just getting through a day.
Yes, exactly. So, so true. And again, that all of this pertains to, who's listening, which is a woman that's needing to get her health in order. And like you said, time, we have to steward it wisely, but we're also needing to steward our body wisely because it's really not even ours. It's God's,
Yeah.
it's His
Yeah.
temple.
Yeah.
So, those, I love how they both are about stewarding differently,
Yes.
stewarding wisely. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, but if we go to God and say, Lord, I am not stewarding my time well, I'm not stewarding my body well, I need help, He's
Mm,
going to show up and help you, however that
yeah.
looks for each one of us.
Exactly. Yes. God just showed me this in scripture yesterday. I was in First Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 2. And so, of course, it stood out to me. You're going to hear the word. It says, it is required of stewards that they should be found faithful.
Yes.
And it was this whole, like, he was trying to show them, like, you've been entrusted with this message of the gospel, right? And how are you faithfully now using this? And so it just was that reminder, not in a shaming, you need to be faithful or you're going to be in trouble, but that invitation of like, let's do this, like you said. And
Yeah.
Redeem Her Time is the name of my coaching program and the name of my podcast. And it came from Ephesians 5, which says, look carefully how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Or one version I found said, because these are difficult days, right? Like, yes, amen. But
Yes.
there's that intention in there,
Yeah.
right? And so there's attention and intention to what we're doing because it says you can be wise or you can be unwise.
Mhm.
And like you said, that can be true about our time. It can also be true about our health choices, right? I can make a wise choice. I can make a not wise choice with how I'm moving my body or what I'm putting in it
Yeah.
or what kind of rest I'm giving it and things like that, right? But
Yeah.
when we look carefully and are thinking about that and what I call it living by design with God instead of living by default and just kind of whatever feels good in the moment, which we know does not always lead to the body that we want.
No.
Right? Like it does shift things over time. Yeah, maybe in the moment, the Haagen-Dazs may, look and feel better than, maybe a one small square of super dark chocolate. But
Yeah.
over time, yeah, those investments you're making in your health are going to be showing up and really producing that fruit.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. Is there anything else that you feel um, the woman listening really needs to know or understand to move forward into a better stewarding of her time?
Mm.
Or do you feel like you've got all that in?
Well, gosh, we could talk on and on about this, right? Like
Yeah,
this is what
yeah,
I talk about day in and day out. But I think this may be what she needs to hear, right? Like again, you have time is what it all comes down to. So if that's the only thing you come away with, whenever that thought comes up, I don't have time for, Andre says I should, yeah, I don't have time. I want you to check yourself and say, nope, that's not true. I do have time, right? And the question is, how are you redeeming it for what matters most? Because we all know if we don't invest in our wellness now, one day it will cost us and it
yes,
will always come back with interest. I call it, right? It's like
yeah,
paying with cash up front or paying by card and then being charged more later. It's going to cost us more money.
yep,
It's going to cost us more time. It's going to cost us more energy, more emotion, more stress.
hmm,
Like, is it really worth the price of putting it off, no matter how you feel in the moment, right? And just that reminder that you have time and your wellness is worth your time
yeah,
now and not, yeah, continuing to put it off
yeah,
because it's gonna take a lot more to get back on track and where you want to be.
exactly. I always say, pay now or pay later. Which do you
Yeah,
want to do?
yes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, I know that you have a gift for every woman listening to this. Do you want to share what that is and how that will
Yeah.
support them?
Yeah, as I was just praying about what would be a blessing to your audience and thinking about feeling like I don't have time to take care of me. Because so often we think I have to do this and this and this, and I got to get to work, and I got to make sure the kids get here, or I got to get this for my hubby, or I got to have, dinner ready, or we feel like there's a bazillion things that need us. And so from the moment we get up, right, it's all about pouring out all day long. And so one of the concepts I teach at Redeem Her Time, and I'm on the Redeem Her Time podcast, is we have to refill before we pour out. And so I want to offer your audience a gift. It's a guide I put together called Fill Your Cup First. It's permission and direction to fill up body, mind, and spirit first. So that way you have something to pour out. And would be a great place to put some of these health habits and these things that, they're learning from you into those places, right? And I also come at it from a different place too, because I think a lot of women kind of maybe know, like, I should have some kind of a rhythm of a morning routine and things like that. And so, yes, I teach a morning refill, but I also teach an evening refill. Mm-hmm. Like at some point, we just need to be done, right? It doesn't matter if the work is done, like we need to be done. And just like our phones eventually need to go back on a charger, if we want to be able to use them the next day, we need to refill body, mind, spirit, as well, and not be either doing up until the time we go to bed, or even scrolling, and things like that, or, like that's not really refilling. And so this guide will help walk you through how to make the time for taking care of you and what kinds of things you can do in there. So I will give you we'll make sure we put that link in the show notes, but it's redeemhertime.com/fill. And that's the Fill Your Cup First guide.
Great. Thank you. And, please listen to Lissa's podcast, Redeem Her Time. It will really go deeper into a lot of the things that we've talked about today and really support you in your time. And that's very valuable, just like your health. So thank you, Lissa.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Andrea.
Before you go, if you have been transformed or blessed by this, please subscribe, then go to Apple Podcasts and leave me a written review. It is the #1 way that you can bless me and get the word out there to other women who are also seeking. Screenshot your favorite episode, share on your social media feeds, be sure to tag me, and I'd love to connect more often, so join my Facebook group. Until next time, remember God says in 1 Corinthians 10:31, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. God bless you, my sister in Christ.